And welcome back. This is your man Warrior. This is another patron roster review, and this is Tamax Koorn from Red Force Vapad. Now, Red Force Vapad is an entire group of people. That's why he has VA in his name, to try and let everyone know who he's with. So that's pretty cool. They don't hit each other when in arena. If anyone wanted to know why, a lot of teams do that. It's also to rep your team. Now, Tamax Koorn, you have really good arena team, and you have a really good ships team. Basically, you have the most overpowered ships team in the game. You also have one of the most overpowered arena teams in the game. It's excellent control team for climbing. It's actually the team Tide that I had created, or that I had kind of made a video of. I didn't necessarily create it, but I made a video of it and put a name to it, so that way people could refer to it and know what they were talking about. So Tamax, you wanted to know a little bit about arena, specifically mods. You wanted to know how your mods were, and then with ships as far as your backup, and then some dark side territory battles as far as like squad management. Like, how do you handle all the different teams you're having to, deal with, and how sometimes in dark side territory battles it like evolves, and you have to use different teams in different phases, and it's just kind of overwhelming. So we'll talk a little bit about that, but really squad management's more about just developing more characters, because then it's okay to have a varying set of teams. And when you find success with a specific team on a specific day, when you find 3 or 4 teams on a specific day that work, then those teams need to be written down for phase 2, so you know what worked that time, and then you can build a build out. But if you can have some go-to teams, that works better just to have 4 like go-to teams that you basically use. They'll probably actually need 5, because some days bounty hunters are required and other days they're not. So, but anyway, and then you were also working for the Imperial troopers a little bit, because you said that occasionally you run into a Nightsisters team, and of course Ray, that's her one Achilles heel, and so you wanted to do that. I have another alternative instead of just Imperial troopers to help you with Nightsisters. We're going to talk about it. We're going to get right in. Let's do this. So for arena, your mods, Ray looks really awesome, and R2-D2 looks great, but I would say you're going to want to try and get R2-D2 a little bit faster if possible. But I noticed with BB-8, same thing. BB-8 really needs to be fast, and I know for you this is probably lightning. It's almost 100+ speed. This is great, but yes, you're going to want to try to push the limits of BB-8 and get him as close to 280 as possible. This makes a significant difference in arena and how often you fall, because the more he goes, the faster your team works. And with Ray, because she slowly opens up and it eventually plays out, the faster your BB-8, the better. And I know this because I play multiple Jedi Ray teams, and whenever I go against a much faster BB-8, I have a much tougher time winning. It also helps with the Nightsisters, because it speeds your team up, and that's what you need, is a really fast team against them. The rest of your modding looked really solid, and I know that you're probably climbing pretty easily with this team every day. You're able to get to the top, but you did mention you were working on the Imperial troopers for Nightsisters. So this is the team. Colonel Stark is the only one you really need to finish developing. You're going to want to go ahead and finish developing Colonel Stark. You're also going to want to do the Zeta on General Veers. It makes a huge difference in the team. It's 1 Zeta for the whole team. This is a way overpowered team with 1 Zeta. So pretty awesome. You're almost there. General Stark and the Zeta for General Veers. You'll be able to use them in territory wars and battles. They'll be a go-to team in your dark side territory battles, so remember that. You'll be able to use them in the Empire-specific nodes and for the Imperial Trooper-specific nodes, and you'll be able to use it for the special mission at the end. Very cool. So definitely do what you're doing, which is finish Colonel Stark and get that Zeta on General Veers. Now, as overpowered as the Tide team is, and it's solid on defense and really good on offense, it does have an Achilles heel, and that's Nightsisters. And because of that, a lot of times you find yourself struggling with this specific composition beating Nightsisters. I have found a simple substitution really makes a huge impact, and that specific substitution is taking General Kenobi out, because against Nightsisters he's pretty worthless, and replacing him with Han Solo. What Han Solo does is brings 2 things that you desperately need against Nightsisters. 1, mass damage, so you can get rid of Nightsisters quickly, specifically Old Daka and then Mother Talzin, okay? He can also shoot whoever he wants at the beginning, so even if there's an auto taunt at the beginning with their zombie, you get to stun and take down or really hurt one of the two Nightsisters. So he brings control that you don't otherwise have. You need that, especially with the Jedi Ray team, since they take a little bit to get going. He'll be able to help chew through the other Nightsisters pretty quick. Once you have Mother Talzin stunned with Han Solo, then you'll focus on taking old Daka out, and you'll be able to take her out really quickly. And then you can go back to Mother Talzin and then work on the last few. With a Jedi Ray team, with the amount of resets you get, you'll be able to burn, which will cause exposes and AoE damage, so they can't really hide their Nightsisters from you, so don't worry about that composition. It's really old Daka and Mother Talzin, and you've got to control them. Thrawn's another good option, but I like Han Solo better because of the damage output that he does that really puts a nail in the coffin for that team. Try it out and see what you think. Now, with this character, you're going to want to get his physical critical chance to 70 or so percent, so that way when he uses his special Deadeye, he'll be able to use his quick draw almost immediately thereafter. If you're running him with CLS, obviously it's a guarantee because the extra 10% turn meter, but without CLS, it's about a 90% gain when you have the R2D2. So 80% or so. So you could get it higher, but really 70% is optimal, and you'll be able to use Deadeye, and then nearly thereafter be able to use Quick Draw, which is a double tap. That's over 60,000 damage to a character, even with, and make sure you apply with Jedi Training Ray the health immunity, the healing immunity onto old Daka, so she can't heal herself in the attempts once you're trying to take her out. Now on ships or arena fleet, you're doing phenomenal. You're literally using the team I'm using. This is a phenomenal team. We're going to talk about your back 4 slots, who I would suggest and why. Now, you told me that your backup ships are Slave 1, then Scimitar, then Gauntlet, and then 5's Umbaran. The 5's Umbaran ship gives away turn meter, and that goes very against the Chimera and what it stands for. Doesn't do a ton of damage, and unless it has a good AoE, which it all depends on what, by the end of that fight, whether you have that target lock or not. What I really like better, and I put it in a strategic order so that way the AI plays it the best, is in your first slot an Empire ship, which is the Gauntlet. And you have the Gauntlet really leveled up. And this Gauntlet, what's cool about the first backup is if you've lost a ship and he's coming in, that means you're struggling with their bigs probably, and they're able to capitalize on it and either kill your bigs or kill one of your other ships. You're going to need buff immunity for their bigs ship, and if you haven't already killed him, this buff immunity from the proton missile launcher is really going to help. Now, the other thing is it's Empire, and on this ship's basic, as long as they're target locked, it will grant turn meter, which speeds your Empire team up. In addition, because it's Empire, there's a lot of turn meter synergy with the Chimera. So keep that in mind. Make sure that you're using the Gauntlet Starfighter. It really is a good ship. Not super fast, but it also brings a Dispel, which really helps. It also regenerates protection, which brings about durability, which I believe you need, especially against other Chimera ships. So Gauntlet first. Then you want your Scimitar to come in and totally wreck what their plans were that they were attempting to do. They were able to kill something. The Gauntlet came in. Now they're working on trying to kill another ship. By the time they get that second ship killed, the Scimitar flies in and totally squishes their ideas of what they were going to do. So the Scimitar would be a great second ship, and you already know the Scimitar well. And then the last 2 slots on defense, the opponents are probably never going to see your last 2 ships. They're going to chew through your first 5 and then the first 2 backups, and they're going to impose their will. That's just what happens. Every ship team can beat every ship team if they're equal in value. So you're going to have to continue to develop like you are, all your pilots, and continue to max them out like you are. But the last 2 slots in your backup are what I call utility slots. These are 2 slots that you put in 2 ships that you really need potentially somewhere in the battle, but you're not sure when. And so you have Gauntlet and Scimitar as your first and second for defense specifically. But then the last 2 would be Slave 1 and Poe. And your Slave 1, of course, because it has a great AoE, it has 2 AoEs in fact, and it does target lock, and it's pretty tanky. This is a good utility character to have available. I can't tell you when I don't run it how I feel when I go finally target lock the whole team, lose a ship, and want to bring in Slave 1 to just decimate the opposing team, and I can't. Now, the cool thing about Slave 1 is he's like the Umbaran with the AoE, except for he doesn't provide additional turn meter to the opposing team, and that's important. And then the last ship that I mentioned is actually Poe Dameron. You got him, great. You got his ship maxed, except you need that 7th star. Now, this ship is tied for the fastest ship in the game, and if you're struggling with Imperial TIE fighters, it's great. Even in his last slot of your backup, you can bring him in whenever you want. So if you find yourself struggling with Imperial TIE fighters on the other side, don't stress. Use your TIE Advance to kind of target lock and maybe whittle down, but if you can't finish off the Imperial TIE fighter, just ignore it until you're able to bring in Poe Dameron. Bring in Poe Dameron. It's a one-shot kill every time. It cannot be evaded, and it does like 60 to 70,000 damage, which is always, in my experience, the ability enough to take out the Imperial TIE fighter. This is a direct counter, but you do not want it in your first 5. Even though he's super fast, he is kind of squishy, and he only has that initial use. So I know a lot of people that put him in your first 5, but it lowers the synergy of the Empire team and the turn meter synergy that you have. So again, use him in one of those back 2 slots, the last 2 slots, what I call utility slots, and that should really help out. Now, for dark side territory battles, you wanted to kind of focus and you wanted to know what to focus on. And you're a whale. You've been playing for a couple of years, so you really can take characters to gear 11, eventually take them to gear 12. But gear 11 really is where you want to take them to before you move to another team. And there's a lot of teams to chew out. Now, you basically have your Imperial troopers under lockdown. You're just working on Stark. Then you've got Empire specifically done pretty good. So there's 3 teams I would focus on. First Order will be next. First Order helps you with dark side territory battles. They're also going to help with territory wars. And you already have the TIE Pilot and Kylo Ren maxed out. So you're going to want to focus on 3 characters. And those 3 characters are going to be Kylo Ren Unmasked, First Order Stormtrooper, and then First Order Officer. Those 3 work very, very well. So only 3 First Order to really chew on. And those 3 characters are going to be important. After you're done with these 3 characters, you're then going to work on your Nightsisters. Now, your Nightsisters are good. They are not great. They're not bad, and you can use them in dark side territory battles, but I would put them on the front burner and make them your highest priority once you've got your Stark done and you've got some of your pilots and you've worked on those 3 First Order that I already suggested. Then you're going to want to work on Nightsisters. They did make Mother Talzin farmable recently through shipments, and since you're a whale, you can purchase her shards that way, but they are going to put Zombie Spirit and Talzin somewhere on the board over the next month, and so look out for that because you'll be able to get them all to 7 stars soon enough. Once they're 7 stars, this will be a go-to team. You do not have to do any of the Zetas on any of these characters. I have 0 Nightsister Zetas, and I can get a perfect 4 out of 4 on every battle from the first phase all the way through to the 6th phase by using my Nightsisters. So you just want to continue to develop them. The best 5 to develop, in my opinion, would be Mother Talzin, Asajj Ventress, Old Daka, the Zombie, and then the 5th can be your choice, either the Spirit, now that it's going to soon be farmable, Talia, or you could even do the Initiate or the Acolyte. I know a lot of people that prefer the Acolyte just due to the stealthing mechanism, but you can choose whatever you want for that 5th slot. But the Zombie, Talzin, Ventress, and Daka are really required. Once you get them to like gear 11, that's sufficient. You don't have to gear 12 them, and you don't have to put the Zetas. However, if you choose to go ahead and go gear 12 and Zetas and all of that, this is a wicked arena team that is very frustrating for a lot of people, and it's phenomenal as a defensive team in territory wars, as well as a great offensive team for territory wars. Once you've got your Imperial Trooper finished off, your Nightsisters and First Order finished off, then you're going to move lastly to bounty hunters, and this will be your last priority. And with bounty hunters, you're going to want to develop, in my opinion, all 6 of them. If there was one you would neglect, it would actually in fact be Dengar, and the reason for that is, while Dengar has a pretty cool kit, a pretty cool utility, Greedo actually has more synergy with Zam Wesell, and Cad Bane brings a really, really good stun that's more consistent than Dengar. So I would bring out Boba Fett, IG-88 for those 2 ability blocks, Greedo and Zam Wesell for the thermal detonators specifically for the special missions against the Wampas. The Wampas don't cleanse those thermal detonators off, and so you can use them against those Wampas, and Cad Bane can keep them stunned in the process. I like Dengar a lot, but like I said, if you want to do Dengar, that's fine. But you really should do Zamwesel and Greedo as well on your development. Now, I know with your Darkside Territory battles, you talked about squad management, specifically like in phase 2, this time you used team X, Y, or Z, and in, next time you play, you use teams A, B, and C, and you're struggling to remember which ones and what. So that's why I'm giving you a distinct focus on teams. These teams will help you across all of those 6 phases, and there'll be varying teams you can use. Your Empire is already done. Your Imperial Troopers are almost basically done. So First Order first, with First Order Stormtrooper, Kylo Ren Unmasked, and First Order Officer. Then move to Nightsisters, then finish off your Bounty Hunters. Do that, you'll have 5 to 6 really solid Darkside teams for territory wars and battles. You'll be able to find some synergy that you didn't have before, and you'll be able to zip right through Darkside territory battles, and your feeling of not being able to have squad management will fall through because these teams will become your go-tos because of how strong they are in this PvE content. Tamax Koorn, I hope that this helps you out. I know a lot of people that are watching are going to be able to leave comments down below as to what they think. I hope this helps you focus in Arena. Some of the substitutions for Nightsisters that you can use, make sure you Zeta that Veers, and in your ships, make sure that you use those last 2 slots as utility for characters such as Slave 1 or Poe Dameron's ship, which happens to be tied for fastest ship in the game. Darkside Territory battles and wars, you've got a lot of great teams already, but once you get your First Order knocked out, go over after the Nightsisters, and then finish off those Bounty Hunters. You're looking really good. You're finishing really strong. As always, keep your gaming on. Warrior, out.